We're planting tulip bulbs today on pots and trowels, and that's brought to you with the support of Cobra Garden and King Seeds. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, today I'm going to be planting some tulip bulbs in the borders to give us some lovely colour next spring. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, surely here we are now, it's the third week in November. Isn't it a bit late planting his bulbs? Well, if it's a case of things like your daffodils and your hyacinth and crocuses, ideally, yes, they should have been in maybe a few weeks ago. But when it comes to tulips, they go in later because we like to wait until the soil is cooling down. That gives less of a problem with diseases such as tulip fire that thrive in warm soil. So if the temperatures are cooler, less chance of problems, and they soon establish. So I've got some bulbs here that I bought several weeks ago. I think I actually bought these at the Harrogate show back in September, and they're still lovely and firm. They've been kept in a nice cool place, and you can see that we've still got that dry papery skin on them, and they are just starting to sprout. So if you've got bulbs like that and you can see a little sprout on them, then don't worry, it doesn't make any difference, they're going to be fine. So these are going to go out in the border. You can of course plant them in containers and pots and they'll do well. So this is all newly planted this year, the borders in the garden. So we've still got gaps between things, and we've got some herbaceous that's died down at the front. So I've got sort of planting pockets that I can put some bulbs in. So first thing is make sure your soil isn't compacted, because we've got to be able to dig a hole to get them in. So if the soil has been walked on or settled, just give it a bit of a fork over so it's nice and loose. So do that. Now, various ways that you can plant them. Some people like to use bulb planters like this. They're great. I prefer them in a lawn. With these, you just push them into the ground and then take out a core of soil, drop your bulbs into the bottom, and then you've just got to push that soil back through. Or usually what will happen is if you take out another core of soil, it will push some soil out the top, but essentially you need that soil to go back into there, firm it down, and away you go. The other way you can do it is with a trowel, or if you've got big bulbs, then I would use a spade and dig a hole that way. But for these tulips, they're not so big, so I'm going to do it with a trowel. And what we want to do is to plant them so they look nice and natural. So don't plant them in straight rows necessarily. Some of the books just say throw them on the ground, but I think you can space them out a little bit, and we don't want them to be touching. So I'm going to just plant them in sort of groups like that, and they'll be fine, and then they'll grow up and we'll get the impact of them. So set the bulbs out where you want to plant them, and I'm going to use a trowel because I've loosened the ground anyway, so it's not going to be a problem. Now, the secret with most bulbs, and especially tulips, is we're aiming to plant them 3 times their depth. So whatever that depth is from the base of the bulb to the pointy bit, we want the hole to be 3 times as deep. So, you know, I can see on there, if I hold that there, we want to be almost the depth of the trowel when I dig the hole. So it's just a case of, and that's why it's so important that I loosen the soil below. So you can see there, the trowel is pretty much the depth of that, and then we can just position that one in. And then when I dig that hole there, it will fill that hole in and we can put that one down. So it's good to get them nice and deep. And that one into there. Now I've added no fertiliser. We don't need to do that because everything the bulb needs is inside there to get it growing. The roots will grow out, the leaves followed by the flowers. So you can see that's nice and deep there. Let's see if we can get Jill to look down. We just dig that hole. And that's where it wants to be, quite deep down in that hole. And then we can cover that over with soil. So everything's in there. The time we feed them is next year when they're actually flowering. So we don't need to tread them down, just put the soil on, lightly tamp it with your fork or your trowel. But then a little tip, because if you're planting them through the borders, it's very easy to forget where you planted them and accidentally dig them up, or later on in the year when I'm trimming some of the perennials down, or the spring we're having a tidy up, we don't want to disturb those bulbs. So just stick a label in. I've just got a label there roughly in the middle of the clump, so I know that when I'm doing work in the garden there's a group of tulips there and not to dig that ground. So I'm going to work my way through, put various clumps through here. There's already a few daffodils in there, so come the spring we should get loads and loads of colour with this. And although, as I mentioned, we're doing this now and it's only the third week in November, the window for planting them is quite long, so you can keep planting them through the rest of November into December. I always think, certainly where we are in the UK, my cut-off point for getting the tulips in is by Christmas, and that still gives them plenty of time to form a root and then produce wonderful flowers next spring. So thank you for watching, and remember, all the videos that we've done you can find on YouTube and the podcasts on your normal provider. We'll be back again next week, so until then, bye.